Tuesday night in the Spotlight. Tonight I have joining me Amanda Audrey, and she's here to talk to us tonight about shifting your mindset to create a life of fulfillment. Amanda is a single parent, a volunteer firefighter, a successful entrepreneur, and self-proclaimed professional dream chaser. If there's one thing Amanda is passionate about, it's empowering women to push through fear and overcome adversity and hardship to achieve a life of fulfillment and joy. By bringing women together and empowering them to recognize their self-worth and let go of limiting beliefs, Amanda has witnessed many amazing transformations, including her own. And you guys can connect with Amanda on Facebook at facebook.com/Amanda Audrey Coach. So thank you so much, Amanda, for joining us here tonight. I'm so excited to chat with you. So can you tell me more? What is a dream chaser? What is that all about?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. We've been connecting through your work for quite a while now, and I'm excited to do this with you. So professional dream chaser, I have just, about 7 years ago, I had just a really difficult year. My mom passed away, my sister passed away, and I got a divorce all within 10 months. So it was just a wild whirlwind year for me. And I kind of had one choice from there. I could just stay stuck in that moment and be sad and wallow in my grief, or I could go after, some things in life that I
Are you still with us, Amanda?
frozen on me.
Yep, you're okay. You're unfrozen now.
We're good now?
We are good now.
Okay. I don't know what happened.
Me either. So you were saying, so you could have wallowed in this grief?
Yeah, or I could, rise above all of that and push forward and chase some dreams that I had been holding off on for quite some time. So I was a young mom. I had 2 young kids at home, and I was just kind of lost in motherhood. To be honest, being a mom was the only thing I ever wanted in life. I never had career aspirations or personal aspirations. I just wanted to be a mom. And then I became a mom, and that was amazing, and I loved it. But then I started to realize that I needed something for myself. So I became an entrepreneur. I first started with a wedding planning business, which I loved. I did that for quite a while. I then opened my doula practice. I did that for almost 7 years, I guess, and was super successful with that, and have just chased quite a few other dreams from that point on, without reservation and without fear. And something that kept coming back to me was people were always asking, how do you stay so positive and keep chasing all these things when life keeps knocking you down? Because it didn't stop when my mom died or my sister died or I got a divorce. Like, difficult things kept happening in my life. And again, I just chose not to let them hold me down and hold me back from doing and accomplishing the things that I wanted to in life. So
that's really awesome.
Still chasing dreams.
That's really awesome, because it can be so difficult, I find, for a lot of people when life's experiences keep getting thrown at them, to not get lost in a feeling of, I'm not going to be able to get out of this. But it's almost like every time life handed you lemons, you were like, all right, let's use this.
It's almost like it made me stronger. Like I think for a while I thought I had something to prove, like, no, I'm stronger than this, I'm bigger than this, I'm better than this. But then eventually it was just a matter of, no, I consciously want to choose joy, and I want to live a life of fulfillment, regardless of, hard things happen. And I always say a setback doesn't have to be a stopping point. So we all have setbacks in life, and we fall down, and we can either choose to get up again or we can stay there. And I think a lot of people can resonate with staying there. And sometimes we need to stay there for a while, for a season, or, we have lessons to learn and grief to move through and trauma to work through. But then getting back up again is the key to moving past that little setback.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now I know you work with a lot of women in helping them to change their beliefs or their limited beliefs and what their fears are. So what do you find tends to be most common for women?
As far as fears go?
As far as fears, the limiting beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing is I see come up is that I'm not worthy. And sometimes that's a self-conscious or a subconscious fear or a subconscious belief that we have. So I talk a lot with my clients about, getting rid of those limiting beliefs. So that's a big one, is getting rid of your lack of self-worth and believing that you're worthy of more. We talk a lot about generational patterns or generational traumas, things that tend to happen in your family a lot that you've moved through, your whole family has moved through, and maybe that's something that's holding you back, and you somewhere deep down think that that's what you're worthy of because that's what your mom went through, that's what your grandma went through, that's what your great grandma went through. So you're just meant to go through that and to have that same struggle, and you're not worth anymore because you come from this long line of generational patterns.
Yeah.
So moving through that and recognizing your self-worth and realizing that you are worth so much more, and that you are worthy of happiness, of joy, of fulfillment, of everything that you desire. Another big fear is the fear of failing. So, and fear is this crazy thing. Like, evolutionary biology has instilled fear in our minds to keep us alive and keep us safe. So fear is not always practical. There's a fine line. We want to stay safe, but that fear can make us feel like we are way more unsafe than we actually are. So we fear that by chasing a dream and doing something for ourselves, that we will fail at it, we'll lose something because of it, we'll lose our partner, we'll lose our kids, we'll lose our friends, whatever that might look like. We might lose our job, we might lose our house. So fear of change and trying something new is a big thing as well. But we have to, change our mindset to overcome that fear and know that it doesn't always have our best interest at heart. Fear is anything that is worth pursuing will come with fear. Anything that's worth pursuing will be challenging and will be hard. And if we stay in our comfort zone forever, we're never going to go anywhere. It's, our comfort zone feels good. That's why it's called our comfort zone. It's comfortable, it's easy. But anything worth pursuing and anything that will, change your life drastically is going to be scary and hard and challenging, and it's going to pull you right out of that comfort zone. So it's all about shifting your mindset and getting comfortable in being uncomfortable.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. To me, it's all about that expansion. And
Yeah.
if you're comfortable, you're not expanding.
Yes, 100%.
So when it comes to this whole self-worth piece, because I think that's actually worth talking about a lot more, because it's something that a lot of women tend to actually experience more so than men. So what is your thoughts behind that women would naturally gravitate towards not feeling worthy?
I think as women, we are natural caretakers. Inherently, we are raised and we're created to take care of others, to take care of our families. And so often we get in these cycles of caring for everybody else and not caring for ourselves. So it's just like when you go on an airplane and somebody, the flight attendant gives you the safety talk and they say, you have to put your oxygen mask on first before you can put your child's on, because if you're not breathing, then you're no help to anyone. And it's the same in everyday life. If you're not taking care of yourself first, you can't take care of anybody else. But we do. And we take care of everybody else until we're completely burnt out. And we forget that we're worth taking care of ourselves. It's worthwhile to put ourselves first. We are worthy of, having the careers we want, having the hobbies that we want, having the friends that we want, having the life that we want. And everybody in our life will be happier for it. Your partner will be happier, your kids will be happier, your family will be happier because you're happy. So yeah, I think as women, we're really hard on ourselves, and we just want to make sure everybody else is taken care of. And that creates this little voice in our head that says, no, like, I'm not worthy. I shouldn't splurge and buy myself that new dress because my kids need 500 other things, or I'm not worthy of taking the night off and going to Starbucks and browsing chapters for an evening because then my kids have to stay with a babysitter. But you are worthy of that.
Absolutely. And actually, a long time ago, I worked at Zellers, and part of our training process was actually about helping moms move through mom guilt in the store. So
Oh,
making sure that you're smiling at them. And if they're looking at clothes for themselves, you would say something like, that would look beautiful on you, or whatever, because a lot of moms would fill their carts with stuff for themselves. And then by the time they get to checkout, everything for themselves is out, and there's stuff for the rest of the family that's in the
yeah,
cart. So
yeah,
I always
absolutely.
thought that was very
I
interesting.
love that. That's very progressive for Zellers.
Back in the day, yeah.
Yeah, so good. There we go.
So I know you were talking a little bit about generational trauma. So what does generational trauma mean to you?
So generational trauma, or even just generational patterns per se, because not everybody will perceive their past experiences as trauma. Like think I touched on it a little bit. We go through things in our life and they tend to be patterns that move through generations of our families. So for myself, for example, my family has lived through poverty. That's a generational pattern for us. I grew up with a single mom. She had cancer for like 25 years, so she couldn't hold a steady job. She was always in and out of treatment. So we were poor. We didn't have much as kids. We made do, and she did the best she could for us. But she also grew up in poverty, and her mom also grew up in poverty. So it was almost like, I remember, times growing up where my mom just thought it was like normal and it was okay, and she never had these aspirations to try to want more, to work towards more. And that always kind of sat heavy with me. Like, why do we sit in this situation, in poverty, in low income housing, like, and not work towards more? She was always content with that. And so, I'm a single mom now. I was married, we were together 12 years, I got a divorce. It was hard. Like I had spent, my whole life up until that point taking care of other people, taking care of my mom, taking care of my sister, taking care of my kids, and I hadn't put any thought into a career for myself. So suddenly here I am, a single mom, having to provide for these 3 wonderful kids that I had. And I just wanted them to have so much more than what I had. And that was kind of the turning point for me, that I realized, okay, our family may have lived through poverty for the last 10 generations, but I want to break that cycle. And I want to create a new life and a new cycle for my kids to carry forward.
Yes.
So many patterns like that. Poverty, abuse, addictions, whatever it might be, that you can see have carried on through many generations of families.
Yeah.
And you just kind of get stuck in it. And you think that because so many generations before you lived that life, that you were just meant to live that life. You're just destined to be an alcoholic, or to be, broke, or to be abused, or whatever it might be. But you were put here for a greater purpose, and you get to choose the life you have. You get to choose your path, and you get to choose whether or not you break that generational pattern. And I think so many people just don't realize that. They truly just think that they're meant to live that same pattern.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes I feel like people don't even recognize there's a pattern that's actually taking place in the first.
Yeah.
And it's when someone is able to kind of stand on the outside and look and go, okay, so mom experienced this, and grandma and great grandma and great great grandma. This is a pattern. This isn't your story. This is a pattern that's just repeating itself.
Right. And it goes back to that comfort zone, right? It's what you know. It's what your family's known. It's the only thing you've ever known. So to step outside of that feels uncomfortable, even though, being successful is more comfortable than being broke. It feels uncomfortable to pursue something like that, because you don't know it, and you don't know that you're worthy of it, and you're afraid that you can't achieve that because nobody in your family ever has. So why would you be worthy of achieving that? Why are you the person that gets to live a better life?
Yeah. And there was a quote that was going around on Facebook a while ago about two boys that were raised by an alcoholic father. And the one boy turns to drinking, and everyone says, well, why do you drink? And he said, because I watched my father. And then the other boy, they go, well, why don't you drink at all? Because he wouldn't even touch alcohol. And he said, because I watched my father.
Yeah,
And it's so interesting how just a different shift in perception can help to actually shift what that choice is of how you want to actually live your life.
absolutely. Yeah. I've shared a little bit about my niece and my story with her on my page. But for anybody who's new to me, my niece came to live with me 10 years ago. She was 9 before my sister passed away because she was struggling with addiction. So she stayed with my husband and I for forever. She's 20 now and living on her own, but until she moved out, she was with us. And God, she's just such an amazing kid. And she lived through hell as a child. The day she came to live with us, she had pigtails in her hair, and I went to give her a bath, and I took the pigtails out of her hair, and they stayed, like I took the elastics out, and her hair stayed in pigtails because it had been like that for weeks probably, and it was just like caked in dirt, and it was just awful. She was infested with lice. She had seen her mom be abused and arrested, and she had been in and out of foster homes until we finally had her placed with us. She's been through a lot, and that girl, she just rises above. She has never touched any drugs in her life. She doesn't really drink. She's just such an incredible person. And we always said she had two paths to take. She could have followed in her mom's footsteps and become exactly what she was, or she could take the opposite path. And that's definitely what she chose. And I think we all have that choice, to take the same path or to choose a different one. And it's hard and it's uncomfortable and it comes with a lot of challenges, but you're so much better off for it at the end.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just to give credit too, that she kind of chose a path that's more in alignment with you. So kudos
Yeah.
to you too for the raising that you gave to her, because that in itself can actually erase a lot of the trauma, is just the love that you get from someone. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be family, but
Yeah.
goes
Yeah.
to you on that, because I think it's very admirable. And I wanted to bring up too, because you've been doing a lot of volunteer work recently, and just kind of on this conversation of addictions and trauma and whatnot. Can you tell us a bit about the volunteer work that you've been doing?
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with the group yet, it's called 519 Community Collective. You can find us on Facebook. All the credit goes to my friend Julie Sawatsky, who started this initiative. She started back in March when COVID hit and, everything just kind of shut down. She just started, her and her kids would just go downtown and they'd start feeding people on the streets. And she was cooking every night and sharing it on Facebook. And there's a lot of mixed views on that. When you do a good deed, you don't have to share it on Facebook. But we don't do it for the recognition or the praise for it. We do it to inspire other people to get out there and start helping too. So that's exactly what happened. She started posting what she was doing on Facebook, and people were like, how can I help? Where can I drop off food? Do you need extra hands? What can we do? So this group has grown. I think we have over 1,500 members or something now. Julie goes out every day of the week, feeds the homeless, feeds those who are living sheltered but still living in poverty and not feeding themselves. I try to get out there 2 or 3 times a week if I can. If I'm not getting out there, I'm just cooking and dropping food off to Julie. We're going downtown Kitchener. There are areas of Kitchener that I didn't even know existed, where there's whole cities of tents, and these people have these encampments set up and they live there all year long. And the crazy thing to me is that the soup kitchen, which we always think oh, there's always the soup kitchen. Homeless people can always go to the soup kitchen. They're only open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So they're not open on weekends. And most people who are living on the streets are suffering from an addiction of some sort. And if you have an addiction of some sort, you're probably up all night and sleeping in the wee hours of the morning. Number one, just because that's what they seem to do. But number two, because the night is the coldest part of the day. So they try to keep moving. They're wandering around the city trying to stay warm. And then when the sun comes up, they go back to their tent and try to get some sleep. So from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., there's not a lot of folks getting fed at the soup kitchen from, these populations. So we go out at night. We go out like 9 p.m. It's dark. They've all got the munchies. They're hungry. They haven't eaten all day. And they're so excited to see us. It's just really awesome. At first it was scary. It was intimidating to go down there because you don't know what to expect, and they're not super open to new faces. But now that I've been down there a few times, like they know Julie so well, but now that I've been down there a few times, they're starting to know my name, and they come running to the car when we come. They're so excited to see what we cooked for them. It's just really rewarding. They're always so grateful. They have better manners than some people in my suburban neighborhood do. They're so polite and so kind. And yeah, it's just been a really humbling experience.
That's really awesome. And I think it's important too for us all to know, because I didn't realize that about the soup kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. And actually,
I had no idea either.
About moving around at night, of course. Move around when it's coldest so you get warm, and sleep when it's sunny. Because I've often seen them sleeping in the middle of the day, and I'm like, okay, and no judgment, but okay. Right. But that actually makes a lot more sense now. So
yeah, it's hard to sleep when you're freezing cold.
Absolutely. And to me, it's incredible that you're following this initiative and you're participating in it, because I know you've got all of this other stuff on the side as well that you focus on. And when you talk about Dream Chaser, it's almost like something happens in your heart where you're just like, oh, that sounds good. And now I'm going to pursue this for now. And then I'm going to pursue this.
Yeah. So I talked about my businesses, but 4.5 years ago, I guess 3.5 years ago, driving through town. I live in the small town of Plattsville, so there's not much out here. And there was a billboard up recruiting volunteer firefighters. And I had never wanted to be a firefighter my whole life. Like that was not something I ever considered. And I just saw this billboard and thought, I need to look into that. I don't know if I have, the training or the experience I need, but I'm going to look into it. So I looked into it, and you didn't need any training or experience. They gave you everything. So I applied on a whim, and people always ask me like, oh, did you always want to be a firefighter when you were a little girl? No, like I never wanted to. I just did it on a whim. Something just told me. And so I applied in October. In December, I went on vacation and I heard nothing. There was a lull in the hiring process. So I applied in October, heard nothing. In December, I went on vacation. I went to the Bahamas, and I witnessed a young man drowning. And so me and another man on the beach, we ran in, we dragged him out of the water, and we did CPR on him for 45 minutes before an ambulance showed up. It was a wild experience. And I was so sad. Like I just thought, I don't know if I could do that every day. Like that was really hard. But then it was about 3 days, and I was okay. And it was like, okay, I did what I could, and I didn't cause, his drowning to happen. And I was one person on the beach who had the common sense to do something productive. And I didn't have PTSD from it. I was okay. And I had a lot of just faith in that, I was where I was supposed to be when I needed to be. And that I could handle something like that. And then the day we got back from vacation, I got a call from the fire station, and they wanted to interview me, and I got the job. So it was just like this confirmation that, okay, I think I'm supposed to do this. So I started doing that, and that's been a wild ride. And I worked at a shelter for a little while before COVID hit, supporting young and pregnant teens who were either parenting or pregnant teen and dealing with addictions or abuse or mental health struggles. And now I'm going back to school for social work. So I started last week for my social service worker, and then it's a 2-year program, and I plan to transition into my master's in social work. So that'll be 4 years, which is wild. And people always say like, I don't have time to do the things that you do. How do you find the time? But the reality is that I don't watch TV. I don't, I don't have a huge social life. I have friends and I have a big social circle, but I'm not going out several times a week. I make the time. I get up at 6 a.m. and sometimes by 9 a.m. before I have to leave for work, I've made like 3 pots of soup and 2 batches of banana bread that I'm going to drop off for outreach that night. And I didn't find that time. I made that time. I got up earlier than I needed to make the time to do those things because they make me happy.
And I think that's the key part, is it makes you happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're working with these women through the coaching and stuff, how do you help guide them to find what makes them happy?
So we go through a lot of different exercises and things to, number one, figure out what's holding them back, those limiting beliefs. So we do some one-on-one coaching calls, and then I send them off with some homework to do at home, some things to work through, and then we touch base again. So first of all, we want to talk about their limiting beliefs and what's holding them back in life. Second of all, we're really getting into what it is that will bring them joy in life. So when I first started my practice, I thought, okay, I want to coach people to have successful careers or successful businesses. And then I realized that wasn't actually what I wanted to do. For me, that's what has brought me joy, but that's not what brings everybody joy. Financial stability does not equal happiness for a lot of people. That's not what they want in life. So I've kind of shifted things a little bit to just focus on what will bring you joy in life. So I always say, if you want to move to the beach and sell tacos barefoot on the beach on the back of a bus, and that'll make you happy, go for it. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be successful or rich or any of those things to be happy, but you have to figure out what it is that will make you happy, and you have to give yourself permission to follow that dream. Because, if you come from an academic family who is super successful and wealthy and you want to sell tacos on the beach, there's going to be a lot of pushback around that, and you're going to have a lot of guilt around it, and you're going to think that you shouldn't pursue that because that's not what your family does or wants from you. So then the other part of that is letting go of other people's expectations, especially those closest to you. What other people expect of us is not ever or rarely what will actually bring us joy and fulfillment. So letting go of what your family expects of you, your friends expect of you, and what society expects of you, and just following your own heart and your own purpose to truly experience fulfillment.
And I think you've been such an expert at actually experiencing that yourself. So it's not like you've just read a book and went, okay, so this is what I need to tell people. Like, you're actually living it every single day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what has been the hardest for you, or what has been the easiest for you in actually aligning with what makes you happy and to just follow it? Because I know, as you were saying with the volunteer firefighting thing, it's like you see it on a whim. Oh, I'm going to apply. So that sounds pretty easy, but I know it's not always that easy for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing that, it still gets to me sometimes is what other people think of me and what other people expect of me. That's a hard thing especially with social media. People just have so many opinions about what you're doing, and that bothers me. And so that's something that I've worked really hard on to try to move past. And because I'm involved in so many different things, it's like I have all these different circles of people, and every circle has a different expectation of me. So it's like if I pursue something in one area, then I'm letting down all the other circles, or they're thinking negatively of me for pursuing a different avenue, which is difficult for me. So that's probably been the hardest part, is just letting go of that and doing what makes me happy, what fulfills my life. And then the easiest thing, I don't know that there's been much that's easy, I guess.
Okay.
I'm very much a free spirit. Like we were talking about procrastination, you and I, this week. And Like I didn't send you my bio until the very last hour. And then tonight it was like 7 o'clock and I thought, oh, I better get ready figure out what I'm going to say tonight. Like I'm always just flying by the seat of my pants and I almost never have a plan. So often I'll just, I post something on Facebook like, hey, look at this big thing I just did or I'm doing. And some of my closest friends and family are like, why didn't you tell me? Like, I had no idea you were doing that. I'm like, neither did I. Like, I just decided and I just went for it. My best friend just yesterday was like, I didn't even know you were going to school until you posted on Facebook. And I thought, oh, I thought I told you, but I guess I just did it on a whim and I just went for it. So that's been my saving grace, I think, that I don't have any anxiety about just diving headfirst into things. And I
Absolutely
don't really have a lot of fear around failure. My failures only make me stronger and push me harder. I talk a lot in my coaching about trusting the timing of your life. And so that's a big mantra for me. Just because 10 years ago I tried something and it didn't work out for me, that doesn't mean I can't try it today and be successful. And that doesn't mean that I may be unsuccessful again, but again, I'll try it again in the future when I'm ready, when I've had the life experience and I've had, the time to prepare for that. If you're meant to do something in your life, you will do it, but you just have to trust in the timing.
Absolutely. And I love, because to me, if you're following things on a whim, so much so that the people around you aren't even keeping up with what it is that you're doing, that to me is more of the heart guidance, because if you had to make the decision, then you might actually kind of throw those ideas out at everyone. And what do you think? And what do you think? And what do you think? That actually negates that whole, what does everyone else think? And it's really just aligning with what your soul is actually wanting.
Which is funny because I think when I embraced the ability to do that was right around the time that I first met you. And it was after my mom had recently passed away. And I think I have told you several times that I felt like I had this spiritual awakening after my mom and sister died. And I really do feel that way. Like something just shifted in me and I was able to just trust in the universe's plan for my life. And just go with that flow. And it's been such a blessing because I see other people really struggling with that and not able to make those decisions to move forward and try new things and, succeed. Because I think so many times it's not even failure that we're afraid of, but succeeding. What happens if I'm successful? How does my life change if I actually achieve this? And what are the consequences of that? And we get really wrapped up in that. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. And I definitely attribute it to some sort of spiritual awakening.
Absolutely. And
intuition, right?
What's that?
Just that intuition, just following your intuition.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, it's, as you're talking about just kind of going with the flow of things, and we so often try to control so many different aspects of life. But when you can kind of throw that up in the air and say, okay, God, universe, whatever, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. You guys take over here. The ride becomes a lot easier.
Yeah. Everything always works out somehow. And I always tell people this, and I think that it should just stick when I say that, like, it'll all work out, and people just don't feel that way. But it really does. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've, it's been a week before rent is due and I have no money in my bank account. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to throw this out to the universe and it's all going to work out. Like everything will be fine. And it always does. Like I've never not been able to pay my bills. I've never not been able to put food on the table. Like it always works out. And I think it's just that mindset shift. I was actually watching an interesting TED Talk earlier, and they were talking about the placebo effect in medications and how there's been several studies done where people suffering from the same illness, the one half of the group would receive treatment from a doctor in the form of a medication, and the other people would receive the same treatment but wouldn't be aware of it. And the people who knew that they were receiving treatment reported, great success rates. And the people who didn't know that they were receiving the treatment had absolutely no effect. They reported no, reduced side effects or reduced symptoms or increased happiness or wellness. And it's just that mindset, like, oh, I'm going to do something that's going to make me feel better, or I'm going to do something that's going to better my life, and believing it. And just that belief in your head will make you 100 times more successful in achieving that.
Absolutely. So would you say that a mindset is crucial to actually feeling happy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if we're constantly telling ourselves that we're not worthy, or we're not good enough, or that we can't achieve great things in our life, I think that will hold you back forever. I don't think that you actually can experience joy and happiness and success in your life unless you feel that and you believe it. So shifting your mindset is absolutely crucial, in my opinion. Yeah.
And I agree. I agree. So how do you help people? I mean, I know that you've talked about helping people get through those limiting beliefs and stuff, but when it comes to the mindset, okay, do you help people to see where they're bullshitting themselves? Is that kind of the method that you use?
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
okay.
I'm all about tough love. Like, I'm going to give it to you straight, and I'm going to tell you to get out of your own head and get off your couch and actually move towards your goals and ambitions. I'm not going to tell you to sit around and wait for it to happen. So yeah, I'm going to call you out on your bullshit. I'm going to tell you what areas you are keeping yourself stuck, because most often when you're stuck in life, it's either because you're keeping yourself there, or you're surrounding yourself with people who are keeping you there. So if you're surrounded by people who have no desire to change and improve their life on a constant basis, people who have no desire to do anything more in their life than they're doing today, why would you feel inspired to move forward and to push towards your goals and follow your dreams? You won't, because there's that saying that you're most like the however many people, 6 people that you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
So if all of the people you are surrounding yourself are negative, and they're just complacent, and they're just happy to sit in their sorrow every day, you're going to feel the same way. So I'm going to push you to get up and meet new people and try new things and challenge yourself, and surround yourself with people who make you want to move mountains, who make you want to push towards a better future for yourself and a better life. And that's going to be hard. It's going to be shitty for some people, but we do the hard work together, and then they always come out better for it.
That's awesome. Now, how do you help guide people who might not know what actually makes them happy, or who might not know really what that longing is that they're looking for?
It's hard. It's hard when people, I come across people who are just really down on themselves, and they've just had a hard life, and they've been through a lot of hard circumstances, and they don't even know what makes them happy anymore. They're perpetually sad and depressed and have no dreams. Like, they can't think of anything that would make them happy. So the first step with those clients is really small. It's like implementing routines in their life on a daily basis that will bring them just a little bit of happiness each day. So I talk a lot about like the miracle morning routine, and I kind of alter that to each person. But getting up in the morning and having a little routine for yourself can really like shift your mindset for the day and set you off on a good foot for each day. So we start with something small like that. And then we just move through different exercises. I have a workbook that I give my clients to figure out, what made you happy in the past? What sort of images bring you happiness? Like, when you look at these 6 images, what makes you feel happy? What are you missing in your life, financially, relationship wise, family wise, friend wise, what areas of your life are lacking and how can we build those up? So it's just a very gradual process for those clients. Yeah, and we just move through it together.
Awesome. I love that you don't have to be at a certain level of
Yeah.
happiness in order to be able to start to get coached to help you build more of what you want. Because I feel like sometimes people go, I'm too much of a mess, so I'm
Right.
not able to get the help. But when you've got these very simple steps, it makes it a lot easier for people to connect and to see that they too can actually change their life.
Absolutely. Yeah. I focus a lot too on working through past traumas because that's a lot of us have past traumas, even if we don't recognize it as a trauma, something that's happened in our past that has created the current mindset that we have. And I don't, I'm not a therapist or a counselor or any of those things yet. So I limit myself there, but I do have some good tips and tricks to kind of move through your childhood and your adolescent years to kind of pinpoint things that may have been traumatic for you and that are holding you back. And then just we can have open conversations about those. I don't need a degree to do that. We can chat about what that might look like, and we can talk about being vulnerable and kind of addressing those things. And if you need counseling, I can refer you to a great counselor. But working on those and healing those traumas is essential to moving forward and finding joy.
Absolutely. Now, I know you were mentioning prior to us getting on this call that you have a course that's coming out in January.
Yeah. So it's January 11th. I'm going to launch it. It'll be my first ever course. It's the theme of it is kind of new you, new mindset. So it's a 6-week group course that we can work through together. And it's all about taking the opportunity and the newness of a new year to kind of start yourself on the right foot to create some really attainable goals over the next 12 months, and work on implementing different strategies and routines in your life to start shifting your mindset. I know you can go on Facebook at any day, anytime, and find like some sort of meme that says 2020 can just like be erased out of the records. It's
Yeah.
been a wild year. But the thing is, 2020, it's not going away. Like this is life for us now. And yes, we're in the midst of a global pandemic and things are extra hard, but it's not like the clock's going to turn at New Year's Eve, and suddenly things will just be better. It's going to be a gradual process, and we have to pivot. Now is the time. Like this is the best time in the history of my life that I can think of to pivot and really change what you're doing in your life, because the world is changing. So if there was ever a time to change, and if there was ever a time that the world would be open to that change, it's right now. So pivoting, figuring out, moving forward, what it is that's going to bring you happiness in the next few years. Because chances are, whatever you were doing before, lots of us were, we were blessed to not be affected by the pandemic in a business sense, but so many people were. But then on the flip side, on the personal sense, I know for me, like I had a huge awakening through COVID. Like I was just so grateful for that downtime and the extra time with my family, because I had been a workaholic for the last 8 years, and I didn't recognize that until the world said, stop,
Yeah.
slow down, stay in your house for 14 days. So it was just like, okay, there's nothing to do except just be present. And the present is called the present because it's a gift. It's such a gift to be in the present moment and to just take each day as it comes. And I think that moving into 2021, we need to figure out how we can continue to embrace that and simplify our lives, and do things that bring us more joy and fulfillment.
Absolutely. And I really like what you said about when the clock strikes midnight, it's not like everything is just
I
gone.
know.
And it's
Everybody
been
just
a
keeps
pattern.
talking about how they can't wait for the new year. But the reality is that it's almost October. Nothing's going to magically change on December 31st. We're still going to be here.
And we don't need a new year either. Do you know what
No,
I mean? Like, we don't need that one specific time of the year where we can suddenly change
right,
whatever it is we don't like about ourselves.
right. Yeah, but the newness of the new year does inspire people to make big
Oh,
changes. So yeah,
absolutely.
I'm taking
Absolutely.
advantage of that, and we'll have this course that is going to be awesome. I'm really excited for it. I'm guilty of launching things too quickly and just like jumping into it, like I've said. So I've really tried to give myself a good buffer for this, and quite a few months to plan and prepare for it. So I'll be posting lots about that on my Facebook and Instagram in the coming months, and I'm super excited for it.
Awesome. Now, how will people be able to sign up for that?
So everything currently, my website is in the works. So currently my Instagram page is amanda.audrey.xo. And I share everything from Instagram onto my Facebook page, which is Amanda Audrey Mindset Coach. So those two platforms are my main platforms for now. I do have a podcast coming out in the next couple of weeks, which I'm super excited about. I'm just working on kind of perfecting the technology of all of that because it's a big task. But yeah, I'll have a weekly podcast to kind of, and each week will be tackling it. One week it'll be just me tackling different mindset struggles, and then on the opposite weeks I'll have a guest speaker, and I'm going to try. I have some really amazing speakers lined up already, but they'll all be women who have overcome adversity and struggle and hardship in their lives and just risen above all of it and made a beautiful life despite all of that. So just some motivation for everybody.
That is amazing. And what is the name of the podcast?
I don't know yet. That's what I'm
Okay.
really struggling with.
Okay.
Yep, it's nameless so far.
I'm
I
sure
will share it once I have it.
I'm sure the perfect name will come whenever it's meant to come, but that's really exciting as well to be able to reach a larger audience and share the message of being able to shift the mindset. Now, we do have one person asking, Angela's asking, where can we find the podcast?
The podcast will be on all major podcast platforms. So it'll be on iTunes, Spotify, all of the major platforms. I will have a link directly to it from my Instagram and from my Facebook page. Hopefully, I feel like tonight I've got a little bit of motivation after this to get going and get it out there. So hopefully very soon.
Awesome. Now, what has been your inspiration as you've been moving through life and you've got all this stuff that's been happening and stuff? So what has been your inspiration, or who has been able to inspire you, whether it's authors or your niece or whoever?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's just a lot of personal people in my life. So my niece has been a huge inspiration for me. My sister, despite, she was never able to overcome her struggles. But looking back on her life now, there's quite an age gap between us, 15 years. So she was quite a bit older than me. And there was a long time where I really looked up to her because I thought she was just the coolest. And then there was a long time where I really looked down on her because I didn't understand the struggles that she was going through. And I've learned so much from that time. And looking back on it, I have so many memories of her just really truly doing the best that she could, given her addiction. She had a very serious addiction to heroin and crystal meth. That's as bad as it gets. And she really did the best she could for so many years. And I wish that I could have been more of a support for her. So she's kind of my motivation moving forward to help people in her situation. Going to school for social work. I'm hoping my long-term goal is to open a private addictions rehab facility where I can offer free or sliding scale beds to people who can't access rehab when they need it because there's so many gaps in our system. So she's kind of my motivation for all of that. I also talk about a partner that I had, and you know him well, who we were together for 5 years, and he also ended up struggling with an addiction. At 37 years old, he developed a crack cocaine addiction, just out of nowhere, it seemed. And our lives were completely turned upside down. And he, to this day, still continues to struggle. And he's someone that I care for very much. So between him and my sister, I feel like, you know, I have this calling and this knowing that I was put here to support people in their situations. So I feel like I've learned so much from supporting both of them, and that I can go out into the world and hopefully help more people for it.
That's really beautiful.
Thanks.
Now, one question that I ask all of my speakers when they're on is, if you could give the world one piece of advice or any wisdom, what would you want the world to know right now?
Oh my gosh, that's a hard question. I should have watched more of your interviews. One piece of advice. I think my biggest piece of advice is to stop letting fear hold you back from accomplishing great things in your life. Because I've said it a couple times tonight, but I truly believe that anything worth pursuing is going to be scary, and it's going to be hard. And it's going to come with a lot of challenges and setbacks, and you're going to have to work really hard to break through those to achieve whatever it is you're working towards. But don't let your fears hold you back from that, because in the end, it will pay off and you will be safe. I promise. Nothing bad is going to happen if you pursue your dreams. The worst thing that can happen is that you fail, and then you try again at a different time and a different season in your life. So don't let your fears hold you back.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Now, if people are wanting to connect with you on your Facebook, it is facebook.com/Amanda Audrey. Is it Audrey? I feel like I'm not seeing this properly. Oh,
it should
okay.
just be.
My apologies.
That's okay. Now I'm looking.
Yeah, it's just the way it showed up on the title page there. So
okay.
it.
So you should just be able to search Amanda Audrey Mindset Coach.
Okay, so Amanda Audrey Mindset Coach. Now for the podcast, is because we've had someone ask, what name will the podcast be on Spotify?
So you should be able to find it just under Amanda Audrey. That's kind of my handle that I'm sticking with. So you should be able to find it that way.
Okay. And she actually just added that. She just added you to Instagram. So
perfect. Yes, it'll be there for sure.
Sure, still see the podcast there. And again, the Instagram handle is amanda.audrey.xo.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And Audrey was taken, so.
The kiss and the hug at the end is also a good thing. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Amanda.
Thank you for having
me. Enjoyed this chat with you.
It's been fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Next week, we have Janice Moffat joining us, who will be sharing her new deck of cards. And she'll be talking about following your heart despite what your mind might be telling you. So I look forward to that, because it's very similar to what Amanda's message was tonight as well. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and have a great night.
Bye.